It started with a text message, a single cryptic message sent on the night of January 22nd, 2018. Ty Husted reached out to his brother with a simple request. Can you come get me? It wasn't unusual for Ty to ask for a ride. He didn't have a car. But this time something felt different. The urgency, the timing, the unspoken fear behind the words. His brother responded immediately. Where are you? Silence. He sent another message. Then another. He called. No answer. Ty had gone quiet, and that silence would stretch on for years. At the time, Ty had been working at a hog confinement facility in South Lineville, Missouri. It was a tough job, physically demanding and isolating, but he had taken it because he had a future to build. At just 18, he was about to become a father, but that future was stolen. That night, before sending the message, Ty had told his brother that a coworker was acting strangely, aggressive even. That was the last thing he ever said. His brother waited for a reply, a location, something. But his phone stayed silent. By morning, concern had turned into fear. His family made calls, desperate for answers. Friends, co-workers, anyone who might have seen him, but no one had. Had he left work with someone? Had something happened to him on the job? The facility had no clear answers. There were no confirmed reports of when he had last been seen. No sign of him in South Lineville. No sign of him in Centerville, Iowa, his hometown. No sign of him anywhere. Police got involved quickly. A missing persons report was filed. Investigators traced his last known movements, questioning those who had seen him. One critical detail stood out. Ty's phone had never been found. Authorities tried to ping his last location, hoping for a lead. Nothing came up. There was no struggle, no witnesses, no explanation. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. For weeks, his family refused to accept that he was simply missing. Someone had to know something. They searched the facility. No evidence. They combed through nearby fields and wooded areas. Nothing. Leads trickled in, but none led anywhere. Rumors of a possible abduction spread, but without solid proof, investigators were left chasing shadows. Had Ty left on his own, or was he taken? The case grew cold. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. His family never stopped searching. Flyers went up. Online campaigns were launched. Every tip, no matter how small, was followed. His son was born after he vanished, a child he would never meet. And still the questions remained. What happened that night? Who was the last person to see him alive? For 6 years, there were no answers. Then, on April 23rd, 2024, everything changed. A turkey hunter in Mercer County, Missouri, was scanning the landscape, moving through private land untouched by time. That's when he saw something that didn't belong. Bones. At first, he wasn't sure what he had found. Animal remains, maybe? But as he stepped closer, the truth became undeniable. Human remains. Authorities were called. The area was locked down. Forensic teams scoured the site. Within days, the Missouri State Highway Patrol confirmed the news Ty's family had dreaded for years. The remains belonged to Sebastian Ty Husted. But instead of closure, the discovery raised even more questions. How did he end up there? Had his body been in that same spot all along? Or had it been moved? And the most chilling question of all, how did he die? The medical examiner could not determine the cause of death. No signs of gunshot wounds. No evidence of blunt force trauma. The remains had been exposed to the elements for too long. His family struggled with the findings. If he had been there all these years, how had search teams missed him? If he had been placed there later, where had his body been in the meantime? His sister, Isha Husted, spoke out after the discovery. It's a day many people have prayed and hoped for. We have found Ty and are bringing him home. While this was never the outcome we wanted, we are relieved our search is over. But relief is not justice, and relief is not closure. The investigation remains open. Police continue searching for answers, urging anyone with information to come forward. Because even though Ty has been found, the mystery of what happened to him remains unsolved. Who was the co-worker he mentioned? What was happening that night? And most importantly, who was responsible? 6 years, one haunting text message, A discovery that only deepens the mystery. The truth is still out there. The question is, will it ever be found? Sebastian Husted was born on May 18, 1999, in Centerville, Iowa. From a young age, he had an outgoing personality, the kind of person who could strike up a conversation with anyone and make them feel comfortable. He loved the outdoors. Fishing, hunting, and camping were some of his favorite activities. But more than anything, he cherished his time with family. At just 18 years old, he was preparing for the biggest change in his life, the birth of his son, Kendrick. He was excited for the future, ready to step into fatherhood. But that future was gone. On January 22, 2018, Ty went to work in the South Lineville, Missouri, just across the Iowa border. He had been working at a hog farm for about 2 weeks, a job that was tough but steady. That day, he was assigned to power wash the facility alongside a coworker. It wasn't unusual work, but something about that night felt off. At some point during his shift, Ty sent a text to his brother. His message was short but unsettling. His coworker was acting strange. He needed a ride. His brother responded right away, asking where he was. But Ty never answered. The hours passed, then the days. No calls, no messages. His phone was silent. At first, his family tried to stay hopeful. Maybe he had lost his phone. Maybe he had gone somewhere unexpectedly. But when no one saw or heard from him, panic set in. His family reported him missing, and the search for answers began. Authorities focused on the last place he had been seen, the hog farm. They questioned employees, searched the area, and tried to retrace his steps. But there was nothing. No footprints, no belongings, no clues. Just a vast, rural landscape and a growing sense of unease. Who was the coworker he had been with? Why had Ty felt the need to ask for help? And why did he never respond again? Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The investigation stalled. His family refused to give up. They put up missing person flyers, organized searches, and pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. But the case remained stagnant, weighed down by speculation and frustration. Then, in April 2024, a breakthrough. A turkey hunter in Mercer County, Missouri, was moving through private land when he stumbled upon something unexpected. Bones. At first, he thought they belonged to an animal, but as he got closer, he realized the truth. Human remains. Authorities were called to the scene, and forensic investigators began their work. Days later, the Missouri State Highway Patrol confirmed what Ty's family had feared for years. After 6 long years, he had been found. But the discovery brought more questions than answers. His remains were located about a mile from the hog barns where he was last seen. If he had been there all along, why hadn't search teams found him? Had his body been moved? The Mercer County Sheriff's Office and the Centerville Police Department launched a renewed investigation. His remains were sent to the Jackson County Medical Examiner's Office for analysis. But the findings were inconclusive. The cause and manner of death could not be determined. For his family, it was a cruel twist. After years of searching, they had found him, but they still didn't know what had happened to him. Even with this discovery, the case remains open. Authorities continue to investigate, urging anyone with information to come forward. A reward has been offered for tips leading to an arrest, but no arrests have been made, no suspects have been named. The truth remains just out of reach. Who was responsible for Ty's death? What really happened on that cold January night in 2018? The pieces are there, but the full picture remains hidden. Sebastian Husted was last seen on January 22, 2018, at a hog farm in South Lineville, Missouri. He had been dropped off that morning by a coworker to power wash the barns. The day seemed normal, until he sent his brother an unsettling text. "Can you come get me?" His brother immediately replied, asking where he was. Ty never responded. Calls went unanswered. Messages remained unread. And just like that, he was gone. Concerned, his family began searching for him. His mother and siblings knew Ty wouldn't just disappear. He had a baby on the way. He had no car, no money, and no known plans to leave. They reached out to friends and coworkers, but no one had seen him after that day. When they contacted the authorities, a missing persons report was filed and the search began. Investigators started where he was last seen. The hog farm was searched, but no clues surfaced. Officers questioned the coworker who had given him a ride, but no charges were filed. Police also attempted to trace Ty's phone, but it was either turned off or destroyed. It simply vanished along with him. Searches extended beyond the farm into nearby fields, wooded areas, and bodies of water. Volunteers joined in. Flyers were posted. The case gained traction online. But despite every effort, there were no leads. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. As time passed, theories emerged. Some wondered if he had walked away willingly, but why would he text his brother for a ride if that were the case? Others feared something far worse. Had he been attacked? Had his disappearance been covered up? The absence of evidence only deepened the mystery. His family never gave up. They continued pleading for answers, but years went by with nothing. Then in April 2024, a shocking discovery changed everything. A turkey hunter was walking through a remote field in Mercer County, Missouri, about a mile from where Ty had last been seen. That's when he noticed something. Scattered across the ground were bones. At first he assumed they belonged to an animal, but as he stepped closer, the truth became undeniable. They were human remains. Authorities were called immediately. The area was sealed off. Investigators searched for anything that might explain how he got there, but the scene yielded few answers. Days later, forensic testing confirmed the worst. The remains belonged to Sebastian "Ty" Husted. After 6 years of waiting, his family finally had confirmation. But instead of bringing closure, the discovery only raised more questions. The medical examiner could not determine the cause or manner of death due to decomposition. No gunshot wounds, no signs of trauma. Just the haunting reality that he had been out there all along, waiting to be found. If he had died that night, how had search teams missed him? If he was placed there later, where had he been for 6 years? Did someone know the truth but choose to stay silent? The case remains open. The Mercer County Sheriff's Office and Centerville Police Department continue to investigate, but no suspects have been named. Authorities have not ruled out foul play, and a reward has been offered for any information leading to an arrest. His family is still fighting for answers. Someone out there knows what happened to Ty. The question is, will they ever come forward? The moment Ty Husted was reported missing, law enforcement faced an immediate challenge. He was last seen at a hog farm in South Lineville, Missouri, a remote area with vast open land, dense brush, and few security measures. Officers with the Mercer County Sheriff's Office and Centerville Police Department took the lead on the investigation, but with little evidence to go on, progress was slow. From the start, they treated his disappearance as suspicious, yet without a clear crime scene, there were no immediate suspects, no signs of foul play, and no leads strong enough to point them in a definitive direction. The first major step was interviewing the people who had last seen him. Investigators questioned Ty's coworker, the person who had driven him to work that morning, and presumably the last person to see him alive. This individual's behavior before Ty's disappearance was unsettling enough that Ty himself had texted his brother about it. Yet despite this, no arrests were made. It is unclear whether the coworker provided a clear alibi or simply lacked direct evidence tying him to anything criminal. Authorities then searched the hog farm itself, hoping to uncover clues. Farms like these are expansive, with multiple structures, livestock pens, and access points leading to open fields. Trained search dogs were brought in to track Ty's scent, but their efforts led nowhere. Aerial searches and ground teams covered a wide radius around the farm, but no evidence surfaced. No clothing, no personal belongings, nothing to indicate what had happened after he stopped responding to messages. One of the biggest hurdles investigators faced was the absence of digital footprints. Ty's phone was never recovered, making it impossible to pull location data or call logs that might have indicated his last movements. There were no security cameras at the farm and no reported witnesses to any unusual activity. Without these crucial pieces of evidence, the case quickly stalled. Weeks turned into months, then years. His family continued pushing for answers, speaking to media outlets, organizing searches, and urging authorities to keep the investigation active. But with no physical evidence and no new leads, the case grew cold. That changed in April 2024, when a turkey hunter stumbled upon human remains in a field about a mile from where Ty was last seen. The discovery reignited the investigation, but it also brought new frustrations. The remains were sent to the Jackson County Medical Examiner's office, where forensic experts conducted a full analysis. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, they were unable to determine the cause or manner of death. There were no gunshot wounds, no visible fractures suggesting blunt force trauma, and no clear indicators of what had happened to him. The lack of forensic evidence meant authorities could not immediately determine whether Ty had been killed, died from exposure, or had been placed in that field at a later time. This uncertainty left investigators with more questions than answers. Had he died the night he disappeared? If so, why had search teams failed to find him in 2018? If he had been moved, where had his body been for 6 years? Despite the gaps in forensic findings, law enforcement has not ruled out foul play. The Mercer County Sheriff's Office has continued pursuing leads, and a reward has been offered for information leading to an arrest. However, no suspects have been publicly named and no arrests have been made. Ty's family remains vocal, demanding accountability and urging anyone with knowledge of what happened to come forward. His mother and sister have stated publicly that they do not believe his death was accidental. His final text message, the strange behavior of his co-worker, and the long delay in recovering his remains all point to the possibility that someone knows more than they are saying. As the case remains open, the lack of resolution leaves lingering doubts. The discovery of his remains was a breakthrough, but without forensic evidence linking a suspect, the legal system faces an uphill battle in pursuing justice. Investigators continue urging the public to come forward, knowing that even the smallest detail could change everything. Until then, the question remains: who was responsible for Ty Husted's death, and will the truth ever be uncovered? 6 years of unanswered questions led to a moment Ty Husted's family had both feared and longed for: the discovery of his remains. But instead of closure, it only deepened the mystery. He was found just a mile from where he disappeared, in an area that had supposedly been searched. No cause of death, no clear signs of foul play, no solid evidence pointing to what really happened. The discovery brought relief that he had finally been found, but frustration that the truth remained just out of reach. Investigators have not ruled out foul play, but without physical evidence, proving a crime occurred is nearly impossible. Did someone harm Ty and leave him there? Was his body moved later? If he had simply wandered off and succumbed to the elements, why had search teams failed to find him in 2018? His final text message, asking his brother to come get him, suggests something was wrong. But with no phone records, no security footage, and no eyewitnesses coming forward, the case is at a standstill. Ty's family refuses to let his story fade into another cold case. They continue pushing for answers, convinced someone out there knows the truth. Law enforcement still considers the case open, and a reward remains for anyone willing to come forward. But as time passes, the fear grows that the person who may hold the key to the mystery will choose to stay silent forever. But time has a way of burying secrets. If someone is responsible, have they spent the past 6 years living freely, knowing the truth? Has silence protected them? Or is the key to solving this case still out there, waiting for the right person to step forward? Ty Husted's story is not over. Until the truth is uncovered, justice remains just out of reach. If you have any thoughts on this case, let us know in the comments. Do you believe foul play was involved, or was this a tragic accident? Should authorities take a new approach to the investigation? Share your theories below, because sometimes even the smallest detail can make a difference. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next investigation into the world's most compelling stories. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe.